I think silence is a topic that is rarely discussed in music because most videos out there talk about sound, but without silence, sound is nothing. And when we talk about music creation, mixing, production, I believe silence is a really, really important part of the puzzle. It's within the silence that we will fully grasp and understand the art of mixing, for example. So in this video, I wanted to discuss 3 different topics that relate to music creation and silence. And the first one is creativity and silence. And I feel like even though there's a lot of great music out there, still, music as a whole is a lot less unique and original than it was even 10, 15 years ago. But of course, there are many exceptions, and this is just my perspective. And my personal theory is that because we are overexposed to music today, and we hear it all day long, when we sit down to work on music ourselves, it's much harder to create something from within, something personal. Instead, we probably copy what's out there more without even thinking about it. Back in the 60s and 70s, music was something people heard at home or once in a while, and the world was a lot quieter, so there was a lot more sonic silence and mental silence. From this silence, I think, songs came into life. So I'm not saying that we should stop listening to music or be in silence the whole time, but having a few hours a day when there's no sound present, I think increases the chance of you creating something extraordinary in music. And number 2 is specifically about mixing, because a big part of my mixing process is about silencing my mind when I work. I believe it's super important because if you're thinking too much when mixing, or if you're in too much inner turmoil, it's hard to hear the inner voice that will guide you through your work. Because a lot of people ask me, how do you know what to do when mixing? And how do you know when the mix is done? And the answer is, it's all about allowing that subconscious mind to be there when you work and to guide you. Because sometimes we just have to sit back and not try to do something forcefully and just allow that other part of you take over, which I believe only comes out when there's silence within. This might sound very hippie for some people, but I strongly believe this is how we do our best work. Most of our creative power comes from that flow state, right? And there's no better way to strengthen your ability to be in a state of flow than meditation. And the third aspect of silence is related to music in general, but also mixing, because as we all know, music consists of sound and silence. And the silence is just as important as the sound in any song. Otherwise, we wouldn't have melodies and rhythm. And in mixing, it's kind of the same thing. We need to find space in the mix and sometimes remove things and put things in the back of the mix. And it's a constant search for space when we mix. And that space needs to be there in order to create dynamics and punch and loudness. We need to have that opposite thing there the whole time. And the biggest mistake people do when they mix is that they try to make everything loud and punchy and big and in the face. But that's the last thing you should do if you want to have a big sounding track. Instead, one should focus on creating contrast between silence, sound, loudness, quietness. In a photograph, you want to have shadows equally as much as light, because if everything is light in a picture, it will not be a good photograph. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for listening. And by the way, I wanted to mention that I will be posting these kind of mini podcasts inside of my community as well, similar to this one. So if you're a music creator of any type, artist, producer, mix engineer, you're super welcome to my community, which is a unique space where we can all connect, not just engineers or producers or artists, but we can learn from each other. And as always, you'll find the link in description below.